you will notice that they become large and difficult to understand. Now Groove offers two ways in which you can actually show and hide parts of your graph, making it easier to analyze what is actually in the graph. The easiest way is by filtering labels. This goes through the label list on the right hand side. They all have checkboxes. By unchecking one of the labels, you make it disappear from the graph. For instance, this particular example concerns the checkers game, which has a regular 8x8 board, half of the squares of which are actually unused. That structure is part of the graph you see right here, but it's difficult to recognize. By filtering, for instance, the player node and the pawn nodes, you get something that already shows the topology of the board. But there are still too many edges, most of which are just there in order to make the rules work that were chosen for this particular encoding. For instance, for the par edge and for the white edge, that is what happens. If I filter them from this graph, now you clearly see the topology of the graph. There's still some squares that are also king's rows, as they are called. I can even remove the king's row label from the node and I'm really left only with the original topology. This behavior is partially determined by one of the view options, namely the one that says show unfiltered edges. If I select that option, then some of the nodes that I just removed appear again, namely those of which the node label was filtered, but there are incident edges that are unfiltered. If I also filter those, then the nodes disappear again. Typically the behavior that you want is the one that you get when this option is unchecked. Going back to the original graph, the other way in which you can analyze it is by using emphasis and graying out. To illustrate that, let me select one of the matches of the move pawn rule. As usual, the match gets emphasized in the graph, but still it's hard to see exactly what's happening. By using the right hand mouse menu, I can say show or hide, in this case show the emphasized part. This leaves me with a graph where everything except the emphasized part is grayed out. It's not gone, as it would be if I unselected or filtered one of the labels. It's just grayed to the background. But add the context of the selected nodes. Add context. Then I get to see more of the graph. This might be too much. I can remove part of it again by hiding the selected part, or even by hiding the emphasized part. Both of these mechanisms also work for the L3S graphs. Here the label transition system consists just of one node, but if I do a state space exploration and I stop it at one point because the state space grows too large, then again I have a very large transition system, which is difficult to analyze. I can actually zoom to fit, which makes me see the entire transition system, but this really doesn't give much information either. Now I can actually, after all, if I'm for instance interested in those in a winning play by black, select the rule that says that black has won and show just the emphasized parts of the level transition system. Here are some of those. I can relay out the graph, and now those states in which black has won are immediately available. Finally, once I have selected one of those final states, I can also show the trace to the start state. If I relay out again, this results in a trace that starts in the beginning and moves on until it has reached the state that I just selected. This is one way in which you can fruitfully analyze your label transition system.